Welcome to the Inside the Sales Playbook show, where on each and every episode, we dive into the actual sales processes, the plays, and the strategies working for teams today. No high-level overview. We get into the weeds of what some of the fastest growing and successful sales teams are doing today to drive revenue and grow their businesses. And this show is sponsored by SalesKit. SalesKit takes the guesswork out of scaling your sales knowledge with one great platform. It makes it easier than ever for your team to actually access the sales knowledge that works. You can sign up for a free trial today at getsaleskit.com. And we're also sponsored by my book, Raise Your Standards, the definitive guide to building seven-figure sales. You can get a free copy of this book to help grow your sales, whether you're an entrepreneur, a sales leader, or a sales contributor at getsaleskit.com/book. And I'm really excited to have our guest on today. I first heard of Rod back on a podcast I listened to just a few weeks ago. Rod started his business, and he's going to get into this story more, and pivoted out of one business into another during the midst of COVID, right in the teeth of this pandemic. So I'm really excited to have Rod Danan on, the CEO and founder of Prentice. Rod, thanks so much for coming on the show.
It's an honor to be here, man. I'm excited to dive into things.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we're excited to have you. Now, Rod, how about you give the listeners some context? What is Prentice, and how do you help the people that you serve, your customers, achieve their mission, whatever that might be?
Yeah, so at Prentice, we connect startups to skill tech interns that they can hire. So in the business, we have two main stakeholders. We have the businesses and we have our interns. And our interns come from, top boot camps across the country. So they're job ready. They just need that first chance. And then for businesses, especially nowadays, they need talent, but taking a risk on someone that might be junior, it's tougher. So that's why people usually add like 5 years experience for every job posting. So what we do is we already have these candidates that are, they're skilled, they're all verified that they can start. And we tell businesses, hey, come to us, get these interns. You only pay when you find a match through our automatic matching system. And if it doesn't work out in the first 30 days, you get your money back. So we're trying to reduce all that risk to make sure that a business can, find someone that works for them.
Yeah, that's huge. And there's specialties and niches that you really focus on. How about you tell the audience a little bit about the type of candidates that you feel you are the best fit for, or that you really work with best?
Yeah, so we focus mostly around the product development side. So I'd probably say, honestly, like 80% of our interns are developers. Then there's about 10% that are data scientists and 10% that are product designers, so UX, UI.
Awesome. Well, Rod, of all the things, right, you could have done, and I know you've got a data science background as well, man, how the heck did you get into a founder's role and get into this crazy world of entrepreneurship?
So I founded a bunch of different businesses throughout my life. But my first, tech startup was my last one. It was an influencer marketplace called Bonanza, and was building that and made every mistake in the book. Wasted a lot of money and a lot of time. But actually, I wouldn't say I wasted time because I learned a lot. It was more that I learned, 5.5 years of college.
Yeah.
And in building it, we got to a point where I was able to get the whole team together and launch this thing. It was mid-April. Things were closed down, and our target customers were local businesses. All the local businesses were shut down. They're not spending on marketing. So at that point, it was, all our businesses are closed. I ran out of money. And in that same week, I came up with the idea for Prentice, because we had interns and those interns are working great. And I'm like, hey, I know businesses will need them. These interns need businesses. Why not connect them?
Wow.
Yeah. So, since all this stuff kind of came to my head in 1 week, I had a few restless nights, not sleeping, thinking like, hey, do I shut this down? Going to this? It's been crazy. But yeah, I really like the mission at Prentice. We're helping people get into careers. And it just seemed like a better revenue model as well, versus waiting for a marketplace that needed millions, honestly, to make money.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it really sounds like, man, you took action really quick. This isn't something that you were, up months and months and months researching, but it sounds like you're really scratching it. You're one of your own itches in the beginning. I mean, what's some advice you have, Rod, that someone could learn from you? Let's say they're a sales leader right now or an individual sales contributor and they want to dip their toe in the world of entrepreneurship. I mean, man, talk about just taking bold, aggressive action during the midst of a pandemic. What advice do you have for someone that's like, Rod, where do I even start? How do I even begin in this entrepreneurship world?
So I would say just start. I talk to a lot of people, like especially like first time founders, and they're like, yeah, so I'm gonna write out a full business plan. Like I'm gonna go get investors, and listen, you don't know anything yet. Maybe you have this idea, but you don't even know if it's viable.
Mm-hmm.
So probably the best book in terms of like testing the viability of a model is called the Mom Test.
Yeah, tell us about that. What's the Mom Test?
Yeah, so the Mom Test basically talks about, if you go to your mom, you're like, hey, mom, I have this idea. She's gonna be like, oh, that's great, honey. Like do it. But it's the way you ask questions and who you ask questions to that will actually determine if it's a viable business. So it gives you like lists of questions, ways to reach out to people, and basically when you're questioning people, don't ask, hey, you think this is a good idea? Try not to even mention the idea, but ask about their core problems, and then maybe your idea will form into something that is actually a solution.
I love that. So, what did that first week or two look like for you when you had this idea? Maybe you had that restless night and then you transition. It sounds like you start doing the Mom Test. What were some of those next steps that you took to bring in some of your first customers as well as some of your first candidates? Because it's a two-sided marketplace.
Yeah. So for this, starting a previous business, I mentioned I made every mistake in the book. I learned a lot. So I had a much better idea of what to do right away. So in my first business, I jumped right into product development, spending thousands and thousands of dollars. In this case, I was like, I'm not spending more than the fee to file an LLC and then subscription for some landing page service.
Yeah.
So I launched the landing page just with all our information. I tried to highlight what's the key points, and I used a positioning canvas from another book called Obviously Awesome by April Dunford. Using that positioning canvas, I was able to create a landing page that expressed the main points to the people that we want to target, which were early startups at that point. So I let the page be up there for a few weeks, and I had an automation where each time someone signed up, it would send them a survey and ask them questions about their business, because I was looking for a specific type of business.
Okay.
And especially those early customers, you want to make sure it's the right customer, so that way you end up building something that works. Because if you're targeting the wrong people, you'll go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So once I found some companies that fit, who I was trying to match interns up with, I started reaching out to them, and we set up meetings, and all of them, it's like the first meeting, they're like, yeah, man, like I have to sell them.
That must have felt really good coming from this influencer marketplace that you'd tried starting before and realizing that, hey, I've got now customers that can't afford. They're just trying to stay in business, trying to stay afloat. What was it like getting some of those first initial feedbacks of like, hey, yeah, I'm in. Where do I sign up?
It's surreal, honestly, because in the previous startup, I worked 15 months, spent $90,000 and made $0 revenue. So for this, it was like, hey, I only spent, the LLC filing fee, which is like $150 or something, and I made my first $100 in 30 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. How did you drive traffic to the landing page? As I'm sure a lot of people would be curious. You set up this landing page. We all know that if you just set it up, it's not like the Field of Dreams. Like if you build it, they will come. How did you first generate some of that first traffic that generated those first couple of meetings, which generated those first couple of initial users on the platform?
Yeah, so if you Google, there's like a few lists that will show you kind of places to post your startup. So there's Hacker News, there's Product Hunt, which I didn't do yet, but that's one of them. I posted on beta lists, and then there's some, and also Indie Hackers was one place where people just find companies. So I think my first customer said he saw us on Twitter.
Okay.
But I don't even know from what. So it was just kind of a few things that like were getting the word out there somehow.
Awesome. So let's talk about kind of where you're at right now. So you're the sole salesperson, as well as rocking the founder, as well as the CEO's chair as well. So talk us through a little bit about your sales process, and what does that look like, especially being a solo individual.
Yeah, so the first customers I was targeting way smaller, like mostly 40% pre-product companies. So I was helping people build their first MVPs,
Yeah.
and then I worked with some later stage startups as well, but mostly small companies. So working with that, I realized that while some of these internships work, the pre-product companies definitely we don't want to work, but the best kind of companies would be mid-size. So you know 50, 100, 200, 300 employees, like that's really like a good sized company for interns and for the company. So the sales process has to change now.
Yeah.
We're not just like reaching out to some engineering manager and saying like, hey, you want to get an intern. It has to be more of a conscious decision. So now what the deal is that we go out to either the HR if they have it, because sometimes they even have HR.
Yeah.
But if not, then go to the engineering manager and just present them, say, hey, we have these interns, we talk to them about how there's about no risk. And then from there, we usually set up a meeting. So once we get into the meeting, it's still, people are really convinced right away. It's not, I think most good products, they should be selling themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in this case, it's pretty much sold. And then from there, you just proceed and get them set up on the platform and everything's on.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Walk us through a little bit, because the recruiting business, for those that don't know or haven't been into it, and it's a really competitive gig, right? You have internal recruiters and HR teams that their main job, why a company has hired them, is to find them talent. And oftentimes that means interns. Then you have external resources like recruiting agencies and headhunters and people of that nature. Then you've got, job markets like TopTall and Upwork and even Fiverr. I mean, man, just talk me through how you approach that level of competition and the confidence you have to say, what, besides all of this competition, I still feel that there's something to obviously like build a company off of, and that you're doing very successfully right now.
Yeah, so like you said, there's all these different alternatives, whether it be getting a different recruiter, getting a better candidate, using job boards, the freelance.
Yeah.
So you're not just competing with like one thing, you're competing with a bunch of different things. So when doing it, I never like to present it as, hey, like we're recruiters.
Mm-hmm.
I think of it more as a technology platform. Like, yeah, the whole thing is going to be automated. Our candidates are ready. You just got to sign up, and then you're going to get your best matches already matched up for you, and all the interviews auto scheduled. So it's a hands-off process, and that's one of the things I focus on is, hey, it's speed. We're not going to go through crazy contracts and like set up these processes and a bunch of meetings. It's like you're going to sign up, and then boom, you're going to have people that are already on your schedule that you can hire.
That's awesome. Where are the majority of your leads coming from at this time? Is it inbound or is it outbound?
So on our site right now, we have just like an email form. So from that, there's some of those same companies. I'm doing the same thing where we send them a survey to kind of figure out what kind of business they have. But in terms of the other ones, it's mostly been outbound. So just looking at different companies that are in our target, and then building out kind of different emails. We're still testing on that phase to see like what kind of emails work best, but mostly outbound email.
Okay, so a lot of outbound email. So would you say that that's the majority of the sales cadence, is just a lot of outbound email? Are you doing anything with LinkedIn as well?
On LinkedIn, I definitely make sure to post content at least. So, I post content for both types of users, for bootcamp grads and also for startups, on different tips and hiring and those kind of things. So trying to be not the authority, but someone that talks about the kind of industry I work in.
Yeah, definitely. And has that led to leads? Has that led to people finding interest in either the work platform or in being a customer of the platform?
No direct customers, but a lot of people that I've talked to, and they're like, yeah, like I need to get to this milestone, and then I think I want to use you.
Yeah.
So it's good, and also just having ideas. It's like this idea. It's not something that most people think about. Like, hey, I need to go out and find a company that does this. But just seeing the idea, people are like, okay, I think that's gonna be something I want to do.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart play, especially with the outbound strategies that you have going on right now. What's a sales play or a sales tactic that you take right now that you feel is super successful and other people should be doing right now?
So you mean like in terms of getting leads or just like an actual sales
Yeah,
pitch?
whichever one you want. Is there a part of your sales playbook or your sales process that you feel like, oh, this is working really well, yeah, other people should be doing it too, or something similar?
Oh yeah. So with sales, I think it's always just solve a problem. Like
Mm,
if you're just trying to force something down someone's throat and they don't need it, then it's going to waste your time and their time, and you're going to feel like a failure because they're going to say no. But if you ask them the right questions, figure out what's the actual problem, and you're not afraid to say, "Hey, I don't think this is for you," then you're going to get better customers. That leads to more views, and then you get more customers from that. So it's like a loop. You just want to make sure you're solving problems, and everything else falls into place.
love that. Really like that. What does the future for your sales team look like? You're at this great position right now where you're getting some traction. How do you look at the future for sales, and what does that future kind of hold for you?
Yes, so sales, that's gonna be the first place for hiring. So I want to get some people in there. I'm probably gonna start building up the team over the next few months, going into next year. So I'll start with probably around two kind of executives, and then from there we'll probably have an enterprise and then a regular one, and split up the workload. And then from there, that allows us to invest in the rest of the company. But I feel like sales in a startup, or depending on the startup, is usually the first place you can hire.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. So many people want to maybe overinvest in engineering or product or anything like that, but I like how you're really focusing in on sales. Yeah, that's excellent. Well, Jimmy, I think that's a great place. Let's pivot to and close with the final five. So these are five rapid fire questions. I'll ask them. You answer them. Are you ready?
All right, and
All right. Favorite sales related movie?
Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street. All right. Favorite sales book?
Um, I like Make It Stick, which is more of an idea book versus sales.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there's elements that can apply to that. What do you know now that you wish you would have known when you first got into entrepreneurship and sales?
Um, that you don't have to do everything at once. You
Hmm,
have time.
that's great. Best purchase of 2020 under $100.
Uh, my podcast mic.
Your podcast, Mike. What kind are you using?
Just someone on Amazon, but I think it works pretty well. But and it was definitely a huge upgrade over the previous one.
Awesome. Favorite social media follow? It can be business or it can be personal.
I like Dave Gearhart, so he's CMO at Privy right now, but he talks about sales, marketing, copywriting, so he's really good.
At Privy, you said?
Yeah.
Awesome. And Rod, if our listeners want to connect with you, where is the best place for them to do so?
Yes, so either Twitter or LinkedIn. Those are the two that I'll be posting on. Taking a break this week, but I'll be back on in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure that we connect to those. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Rod Danan with Prentice, a great company that's really starting to grow, and we're excited to see his progress over these next couple months. Rod, thanks so much for taking us inside your sales playbook.
Thank you so much for having me on.